Welcome to the Casual Coders Podcast. I am here with Chandler and Ian. It is me, Alex, and we're going to talk a little bit about several things, but before we get started, let's just go right into it.
Thanks, I hate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's a segue. We're talking about Go right here to start off right off the podcast. Let's hear what Chandler has to say because he's the one who first introduced me to the idea of Go, and boy, I have no idea what Go is all about. So I'm happy to learn today. Maybe you are too. We're going to see what Chandler has to say about Golang, as they call it.
Yeah, so let me preface with, I learned Go in 2019. My friend, not this Ian, but my other friend Ian, introduced me to the language.
Hey, there can be only one Ian, man.
There can be only one.
I'm not going to let that slide.
But currently I'm doing a work project where like 90% of our code is Go. So
that's a lot of Go.
Almost entirely in Go, and it's like thousands of lines of code. And it's
Wow.
And Go is a statically typed, compiled language developed by Google.
Okay. So statically typed, like TypeScript is statically typed, right?
No, statically typed like C is statically
Oh, we're talking way low level, huh?
Low level, yes.
Okay.
This is a fully compiled language that compiles to machine code.
Interesting.
But it's not based on any existing compiler infrastructure. It is its own compiler infrastructure. It's not like Rust that's based on LLVM and some other underlying stuff. It is its own compiler that compiles directly down to the bare metal.
Interesting.
Apparently, there was a push to try to make an OS in Go, but it didn't come off.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, so Go is written in itself.
I love that. I always loved hearing when people write compilers in the language that compiles that language.
Yeah, man, this is the brain fuck compiler written in brain fuck.
It's like my mind starts doing mind pretzel stuff, and I have no idea how to
Do you
follow
want me to
it.
explain to you how that works?
Please tell me a little bit
I
about
would
how
love
Go compiles itself.
So the original Go compiler is written in C.
Okay.
And what they did is that they wrote the first Go compiler in C.
Okay.
And then they just kind of so they kept the C Go compiler updated, so that way it could always compile the current generation of Go compiler. But that's all it does. That's all it's meant for. It
to
doesn't
clarify,
do anything else.
Go is not transpiled into C. It's going straight from Go to machine language, right? That's what you said.
My understanding, yeah.
Interesting. So
Yes.
that's a little dirty, isn't it? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's its own language. It's not like I said, it's not like Rust that's getting transpiled to LLVM and what else? Or some of the other newer languages like Nim, I think, is compiled to C and then it's compiled to machine code. Don't quote me on that. Not 100% sure about
I won't
Nim.
quote you on that.
I do like Nim.
Totally
is cool,
will be quoting him, I know.
but we can talk about Nim later.
Yes, we
like
can.
Not this episode because I can do
Not
more
quite.
research.
Yeah.
But Go is known for it's a very integrated tool chain. What I mean by that is that all of the tools you need to code in Go are included.
That's nice.
It's not like C where like you have you have like a formatter and then you have this and you have different tools that do this, linker and no. Go includes everything. It has a package manager.
Interesting.
It has dependency management.
Wow.
It has a formatter.
So this is almost like Node, right?
Yeah, well, it has
in the tools only and nothing else.
You can use any text editor you want. It also has like VS Code is some of the best Go tools because it builds in the formatter and it type checks everything to make sure your types are all in line and it'll red underline. VS Code is the premier Go IDE.
All right, I'm sold. As a
Unless
current
you
VS
ask
Code user.
anyone who likes IntelliJ, and then you'll use Golang, which is IntelliJ's IDE. IntelliJ, the company that has one IDE that they sell to you 30 times for different language support.
Oh, nice. I really like that. That's a really good business
I
strategy.
fucking hate
Diversify your assets.
I don't like JetBrains.
Okay.
But anyway, it's
The most diverse, some might say.
Go has been around since about 2009, so it's had time to mature.
Really? I thought it would. I didn't realize it
I
had
would
been
not
around
have
since
guessed that.
2009.
It didn't start
yeah.
gaining any traction until like 2015, 2016.
All the best things take
Interesting.
forever to start off.
Well,
right?
originally, it
I
was
suppose that's
originally,
not wrong.
The first beta version of Go was just like 3 Google engineers who were bored and wanted to make their own language.
Okay.
That's certainly a way to start a language,
Well,
I
it was
guess.
born out of the Google 80-20 rule.
That doesn't surprise me.
Can you explain the Google 80-20 rule?
Why don't you lay it on
where?
him? Yeah, let's hear about the 80-20 rule.
So the 80-20 rule is that at Google, when you're at work, supposed to spend 80% of your time on projects that benefit the company. So like your normal coder projects.
Right.
20% of your paid time at work can be used to work on whatever you want.
Huh.
I respect it. I like it.
I mean, I guess one way to break that down is if we're talking 20% of your week, if you just spent, Monday through Thursday working on real Google stuff and you could just spend Friday to like do whatever you want, that sounds like a pretty Pretty good model if you want to foster growth and development in someone's skill set.
My current company is following that rule.
I believe that, especially with how much crypto research you do.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure how well that pertains to the workload, but yeah, I mean, I guess that could still be beneficial if they grow you as like an employee.
Yeah, and Go it's not meant to be a C competitor.
Okay, that's fair.
It's not aimed. It's aimed to be a .NET and Java competitor, at least in my opinion.
Okay, that seems like easy enough.
I believe in a world because there's a huge fight between Go and Rust.
Okay.
Because they're both
weird,
statically typed compiled languages
Okay.
that are very, at the end of the day, low level, and they're supposed to be, I don't know, they're the modern low level statically typed languages. They both have package managers.
Okay.
They both have dependency management. They both have like all batteries included.
Okay, I was about to ask if the similarities end there, but it seems like they're more similar than I would have thought.
Even some of the syntax is similar-ish.
Except for that, pointer restriction in Rust. I've heard
So
that
then
pointers
which
are
came
tough to work
first,
with.
Rust or
Pointers
Go?
are like impossible to work with. What in Rust? What?
He's
Which
asking
came
which
first,
came first.
Rust or Go?
Actually, I think Go came first, but I'm going to double check that
That's
right
a good
now.
question.
Interesting.
Rust,
Because if they're so
release
similar,
date.
that's sort of a...
Yeah, if they are like at least somewhat
Rust
competitive.
came out in...
Rust, the video game. You got to
not that.
specify. We're talking Rust, the language.
Oh my god.
Lang.
We're going to get a quick check on that for you.
Golang Release.
So it looks like Rust, the programming language here.
I'm loading.
We're on the Wikipedia page now, so
Rust
you
came
can
out
follow along
in
at home.
2010.
2010.
And you
2010.
said
So versus you said
Go
2009,
was
and we're going to be able to
2009?
verify that
I'm
now
gonna
as
verify
well.
that.
2009.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yep,
So
2009.
Go wins by 1 year.
Go wins by a year. Interesting.
Interesting. But regardless, it's interesting they both kind of came out around the same time and are still popular enough. Although
Hey,
I
around
think
the same time, around the same mentality.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't know. That's totally not right. but
we had two
no.
people at Google, two groups at Google that wanted to go branch off and do their own thing.
This
huh?
here's the Google Go group, and this here's
Actually,
the
I don't know
Google
who
Rust
did Rust
group.
first.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Who did Rust
Multi-paradigm general purpose programming language. I like
Apparently, Mozilla is who started Rust.
Mozilla, the Firefox freaks.
So it's Google versus Mozilla.
all right.
Again.
God.
Yes, classic,
again,
classic. Yep.
Yep.
Well, all right. What's Microsoft been doing?
Yeah, right.
Expanding
Nothing.
Nobody
.NET.
cares. All
Nobody
right.
cares. They've been developing Windows 12.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So the Go compiler toolchain comes with a package manager, and
Okay.
it automatically does like it's kind of like Node where it has its own package file. It's not called a package file. There's a Go mod and there's a Go sum. So the Go mod is like your main top level dependencies, and the Go sum is kind of like your package lock file.
Okay, that makes sense. We're talking my language in JavaScript now. I understand.
Also,
High level.
Another thing with Go is that there is no, it's not like Node where it has NPMs,
Sure.
NPM.js, which is the package registry.
Right, right.
Go just uses Git repos.
That's what I was wondering. So it's very, because that's actually what my follow-up question was going to be, is how the packages are actually managed, what the like size of those, what the availability is even of the modules.
just
Like,
use-
who's writing Go modules?
They just use Git and they use Git tags for like the versions.
So anyone who writes anything in Go and puts it on a public Git repository
Can be accessed.
have. That's
can be
awesome.
accessed as a module.
I love that.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
like, say for example, I wrote a Discord bot in Go. If
Yeah.
you really wanted to, you could include my Discord bot as a module and just use code out of it.
Hell yeah, I love that.
I like that. That's good.
It's really cool. And so let's talk about speed.
Okay.
That's a big selling point
Sure.
of Rust.
Especially,
is
right.
that Rust is stupid fast. Rust is faster than C.
And when they're so
Yeah.
restrictive with what you do with memory, it doesn't surprise me that
Yeah.
it's faster.
I'm going to be real. Go is kind of slow for a statically typed compiled language.
Okay.
It's on par with Java when it comes to speed. So it's not a slouch like Python.
Well, if we're talking interpretive
Well,
languages, I mean,
The benchmark game.
Yeah.
You guys ever heard of the benchmark game?
no.
I have not.
Oh,
no.
I love the. Oh, okay.
Is it for languages in general?
Yes, they have.
Is MATLAB the loser? Because it better be.
Look at this.
I hope
Oh,
it is.
maybe okay. So this actually looks really familiar. He's pulled up the benchmarks
So
game.
here's Go.
Benchmarks
Here's
game
Go
dash
versus
team dot
Rust.
pages dot dbn.net.
So you can see Go over. I'll link this in the
Yeah,
show
okay.
notes.
So I've seen exactly this. They do have a series of tests, almost like benchmarks. And in this case, I know GZ is one of them that they talk about, like compression algorithms running in them. Yeah, it's great to see the comparison between different languages and who can perform X amount of tasks
So what
in a
is it?
certain
This is
thing
memory
faster.
used. This is how much CPU time it used, and then yeah. So like, Go is significantly slower because Rust is like 15 seconds. Go is like 40.
Fancouch Redux? What is
I
that?
don't know what
How
that
does
is.
Python compare to Go then on this? I'm
Sad.
curious.
So I know there's a lot of different benchmarks, and I'm not familiar with some of these. I know spectral norm. I think this has something to do with 3D space. Yeah, Mandelbrot. These are things like fractals and recursive functions, regex, redux. Yeah, okay. So there's a lot of
Go
like
is slow, much
interesting.
slower.
So what are the different numbers here? Because on the page we'll see something like Rust number 4, Rust number 5.
Originally, they literally just showed you like, oh, this is how long it took to run the.
I would assume it's run numbers, but maybe I'm way wrong.
This is memory. This is CPU time. I'm not sure what this is.
So what surprises me a lot is that you have something like here where it says Rust number 3. The average in this entire page is something like 32K mem.
I think this is in 30.
And one of them was just an outlier with 13K. So that's really surprising to see like the big difference between these. I'm not sure what these.
I guess that's why they do this. They show run-to-run variants.
Okay, well, yeah, outliers I guess are important to keep in your data set too,
and then
whether or not
compare
they're.
this to Python. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, Python.
Python. That's an easy one.
Look at this.
Oh my god. Well, obviously Python is using way too much memory.
I wonder if this is in milliseconds and not seconds.
Yeah, is it CPU time or CPU like
These are CPU
load?
time. So
like
probably
clock cycles or full on?
I think they're talking time like seconds.
milliseconds?
If this is like,
I don't know.
So I think if you click on these particular tests, it'll show you.
Ooh,
like,
that's
what-
a good one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So here we go.
Is it seconds? That's
Okay.
easy. I'm gonna go. Open
That's
this
in
in
seconds.
Vectorized
Wow.
SIMD
All right.
programs. Oh, so you get to see actually who's the winner. So without a doubt, C is still the winner. And I, as a C fanboy, will take that to my grave. I'm happy to say, as a C fanboy, that it always seems to be the winner over all these popular new languages. But I'm still impressed at just how close they can get. I mean,
Rust is really close.
Rust is very close at 1.8.
It's gonna be down a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, just
Yeah.
comparatively, F sharp. Come on,
Lisp
Lisp surprisingly high.
What
on
even
there.
is F sharp? I've not heard of that yet.
I've never even.
We
used
won't.
F-sharp.
We won't dive into this rabbit hole yet. Ada.
All right. I respect it. I respect it.
Swift. So Apple gets a
Apple's
little bit
pretty
of
quick,
credit
yeah.
in here.
Apple?
Interesting.
But yeah, but Go is like relatively fast when compared to Python.
Yeah.
It's not very fast when compared to Rust, C, and C++.
Yeah, I think the takeaway here is that it's still comparable, like on the same order of magnitude of the power and efficiency of C, which I think is a good selling point, especially for the things you mentioned, like the package management. I mean, C has been around for decades, so it's far behind in these new things like package managers that you mentioned.
Let's talk about syntax.
All right, let's talk about syntax. That was my next question: is how the heck this even looks compared to C?
This is Go.
Yeah.
Go is not a difficult language.
Okay, so I've seen. Okay, colon equals operator is a really hot meme in the industry.
I call it the dog balls operator.
Yeah, what is your dog balls?
That is not what it's supposed to be called.
Wow.
That is not the correct term.
Okay.
Technically, in Python, they refer to it as a walrus operator.
What? That doesn't answer my question.
So what it does is, so in Go, whenever you create a variable, you can either do it this way, which is a C-style way, where it's var word and then the type. Oh yeah, the types come after the variable name.
Now, what is... Oh, var word type. That is weird.
I don't like that.
Instead of just type and then name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So what you can also do is you can just do var, the name of the function, then equals, and it'll do like auto like in C, where it'll automatically determine the type.
Now, when we have a variable in the initialization of a function, I see chan string. What does that mean?
A channel. So a channel is how you can get data between threads safely.
Okay, got it.
So we have like kind of like a scope
They have
operator.
a bunch of thread safe scope type stuff built in, which is part of the reason why I like Go, because I think the multi-threaded programming is really easy and better than JavaScript. And
What does multi-thread look like in C? Okay.
Okay, well, MPI is a great example of this,
OS.fork.
actually. Well, so I actually, my first experience in C, and this is a little bit of a nightmare just because with my limited experience, I worked at a research job, and I can tell you most of what I did there was kind of just number crunching. Basically, I worked in a molecular dynamics simulation lab, which is like a whole chemistry lab.
That's a whole thing and a half.
It's a chemistry lab where they don't do any chemistry. It's all physics, which is great because
So
when you
it
do
would be a
molecular,
physics lab,
right?
not a
Well,
chemistry
well,
lab.
no, because the whole building was a lot of chemistry. They had HNMR, they had all the spectroscopy, they had all the X-ray machines. They had warning labels on every single lab door, and then our lab door was just like, come on in, there's coffee. Like there was nothing, there was no warning there because it was just a Linux workstation and then a ton of servers off site. But in there, my first job was basically, all right, we've got this massive dump of like, let's say 1,000 time steps at like the femtosecond scale, which is microscopic as far as like time scales
Yeah,
go.
that's super, super tiny.
I would basically work on
This is
gigabytes, tens of gigabytes of data that maybe represented at best a nanosecond or smaller.
What's the minimum time scale of your typical oscilloscope?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I guess if we're talking
that would
like
put that into
examples,
scale, right? 'Cause I know that
nanoseconds, or
I've seen oscopes that go to picoseconds, but I'm not a good person for that.
fair enough. All of the oscilloscopes I work with at work do not go that low. We're talking nanoseconds at best. So on the order of ones of nanoseconds, probably.
But what were you coding in this lab?
So there's a program, and I can tell you a lot about this because it's all open source, and I'm so grateful that a lot of what I worked on was open source, mostly because they couldn't afford all the expensive stuff. We didn't use Windows in this lab, but we used a program called LAMPS, which stands for Large Scale Atomic Molecular Massively Parallel Simulator. And what the parallel part is a very important part of it, because we had this 96 core machine that we would run our simulations on. So we had access to insane computing power. But again, we're generating nanoseconds worth of real-time data over the course of weeks. So I mean, it's great if you want to look at the small scale. For example, how one group of water molecules will work on like a surface.
Sort of important in physics, though, right?
Oh, it's great.
We sort of we've got good models for large clusters of things. Right. We sort of already know how that's going to happen or how that's going to work. So I guess you do sort of want to narrow down on the smaller, tiny scale of like particles and atoms and molecules and that stuff. Yeah.
And when you think about, so like even just like the whole theory of everything, we have so many equations for what happens at the absolute microscopic scale, or smaller, I guess, of like how atoms interact, because it's just the same way charges interact. You know, you have a charge on one block and a charge on the other, and you can determine where they move based on those charges. So if you do snapshots every single femtosecond, you can predict how molecules will move in the system. But of course, that means if you have 30,000 of these molecules, you test one molecule versus 29,999 other ones, you get one vector, and then you do the same thing for all the rest of them, and then you move one step, and then you go to the next one.
That's so many calculations.
It's a ton of calculations, don't get me wrong.
This is why the multi-threading was important. So how did you multi-thread in C with this?
So one thing that I had to do, my boss presented me with some work. So the LAMPS, that's already been done. Sandia National Laboratories, as part of the Department of Energy, released this program that does all the simulations, and it's wonderful. You can run this on your own computer. I've done it on the school computers at my high school. You can run this program for free. What the hard part is how you interpret the data. So all you get when this thing happens is every time step, you have 32,000 or whatever atoms in your system, you get 32,000 numbers with 32,000 sets of coordinates. And that's it. That's what your time steps look like. So if you want to do any interpretation of this data, you're doing big, big data. And I didn't have any experience in C. So
just for loop through it, bro. You got this.
This is what's sad. So my first programming language I used was Perl, because that's what people in the lab use. They used Perl.
I've heard Perl so infrequently. Oh God,
you're gonna love this.
You're gonna have to like walk me through Perl and like how it even works.
I don't even want to go to Perl.
I don't have any information on Perl,
because that was
give me a brief overview.
Perl, it's really,
Perl is
really
like old
old
school. It's old school Python. I'll just say it's old school Python that looks like PHP.
Super slow, right?
It looks like PHP, and yes, it's interpreted. So yes, it's very slow. They use Perl, and you're gonna love this. They used Perl. And they used Fortran, and that was it.
Oh my God!
Fortran.
If you've never heard of Fortran, that answers every question anyone had. Fortran has been around forever. It's basically how they sent men on the moon.
First interpreted languages.
Oh boy!
So that's kind of the experience of this lab.
The only thing I got for you is 4chan. I'm sorry, man.
You can't. All right. Anyway.
Yeah, man. The only thing they used is like Python and 4chan. Right. I don't understand.
So Python was a glimmer in someone's eye by the time I got to this lab, where they were using Perl for most of their calculations. And Perl, of course, is incredibly inefficient because it's an interpreted language. So when you have a 4 gigabyte array of just like, 16-bit integers or floats or whatever it is, you're dealing with incredible inefficiencies as far as handling large amounts of data. And my boss came to me at the time and he's like, hey, listen, I have this script. It's been running for about a week. It's kind of slow. I was wondering if maybe you can speed it up. One of the grad students has been working on rewriting everything in C, and he's had a lot of good success with that. I wanted to see if you can do something like that. And I thought, okay, I've never used C except for like the little bit we did in our programming class in school. So maybe, I'll be able to figure it out. Oh boy, did I not realize how much of a rabbit hole that's into. But basically, what brought this up is that the grad student had been using a library, basically like a whole extension of C called MPI, which as far as I'm aware stands for something along the lines of like multiprocessor something or other. It's inter-process communication, IPC, between processes or threads, I guess, that you have in C. So you have a one master thread which when you have 96 cores means you have basically 96 threads you can run on there. You have a master thread that synchronizes the data, and then all these worker threads that go out and take a chunk of data at a time. They get a result, and they send it back to the master through a broadcast message. And that was my first experience basically with C, and I was able to parallelize this program and got it to work almost 20 times faster than the Perl program. So I guess we were able to cut down weeks of time of running it into like days or hours, which was a great accomplishment.
I mean, that's very impressive.
But it was really, realistically, what it was is I unlocked a lot of knowledge about how parallelization works to begin with, and I learned all of my C through that. So I guess, jumping right into the dumpster fire was one cool way to learn this, but I realized just how much faster you can crunch insane amounts of data with C if you parallelize it and have a massive supercomputer, I guess, to run it on. But let me tell you, MPI for C, I will swear by it, is the most impressive thing I've ever been able to see computing do, at least in my experience.
So that's like the C. So like Go doesn't have any external dependencies for multi-threading. It is all built in.
You can do that built in, and that's what impresses me. That's what sells me. If I could go back and redo it all and go, maybe that'd be worth it.
So the way they do multi-threading in this example program, I will say, is a little bit on the side of, they're erring on the side of, oh, let's do this without importing any additional modules.
I like that. I like that mentality.
How this works, this program effectively does is that it's fmt.scan, which FMT is like the standard IO library.
We're looking at one of the default. What is
this? Is on Wikipedia.
It's the concurrency. It's a concurrency example.
All this is doing is getting the word and printing it out. From the console. So, how you're supposed to get input and output in Go is with multi-threading.
Interesting.
Which is like the best practice. So what this does is that this starts a timeout thread that waits 5 seconds. And if you don't input your word in 5 seconds, the program times out and ends.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Which it does the timeout using time.sleep in a separate thread.
Okay. I like that.
And then in another thread, it gets the word. It's not even doing anything in the main thread itself.
So this is 3 threads?
This is 3 threads.
Wow. 3.
Every time you call the keyword go, in space a function.
Is that what brought Go?
It starts in, I think that's actually why they named it that.
Oh my gosh.
Every time you type Go space and then a function name, it spawns a new thread.
So is that kind of like await, but it's in a different thread?
Oh, no, because await doesn't, await isn't another thread.
Await is like an async call, I guess.
Await basically says, okay, this is an async, no, this is a promise, let's wait until the promise returns.
Right.
That's all await does.
Sure.
What this does is Go is kind of like in Python when you call thread.start.
Oh, wait. So it starts another thread, but it's running concurrently. It's not like blocked. Okay.
So what's blocking is the channels. The channels will block until the value is available.
Okay.
And then they'll return the value into a variable that you pick by using this operator.
With the dog balls operator.
So let me actually explain what the dog balls operator is.
I am very curious as to what that even means.
The dog balls operator is
I just can't take that seriously.
Define and assign is what it does.
Define and assign. Okay.
So this is a definition.
Oh.
Equals would then be the assignment. So what this does this in one step.
So you say var, word, or whatever name you want to give your variable, and then string as a type.
And then you can defines and assign it.
And it does not initialize, correct?
It does not initialize.
It doesn't initialize. You're just defining the variable. Okay.
Yeah, and then this is initializing and defining the variable.
So we're saying case. In this case, we're doing a case statement, and then saying word, dog balls operator, which is your colon equals, and I'll swear by that. And then what's this like reverse arrow thing?
So this is basically saying, hey, because you can pass channels around as normal variables.
Okay.
And it will just print out the memory address like a pointer.
Interesting. So it's like passing by address, right? By reference, I guess.
Yeah. So what this does is wait until the next thing in the channel is a variable, and then as soon as it's available, get it and assign it to this variable.
Huh. Gosh, this is interesting. I've never seen. This is the deepest I've ever dove into Go, and I'm quite impressed so far.
Yeah. And then, so there's also a module called sync, which is designed for synchronizing multiple threads together without using channels. Because a lot of the time I do multi-threaded processing, I really don't need to pass data in between the threads, but I do need to wait until all of the threads are done before I continue.
And then you wrap up and then go on.
So that's what sync does. Sync does is that when you spawn when you call go and then your worker, which is what I always call them, your worker, you would add one to the sync group, and then every time the function would finish, it would subtract one from the sync group. And then when the sync group reaches 0, it would continue going.
So does the sync block the main task until all the workers are done?
All of the workers are finished.
Okay.
So what you can also do is in your main task, before you do the work group.wait, you can do something else real quick. So another thing is that Go, Built-in unit testing.
That's a good sell for anyone
Nice.
who works on this kind of stuff.
Unit testing is good. I spent a lot of time working on that.
You know how you do unit testing? You take it's a file name _ test.go. And it will assume that's a unit test file.
Ooh,
and then you
that's
can
awesome.
define these unit test functions with the keyword test. It's a function name test with a capital T, and then your test name as camel case, or technically capital case, whatever.
I guess it's just title case, yeah.
Yeah, title case. And then you can import testing, and you do T testing that T, a pointer to testing T.
So what is that, some kind of template?
It's basically
It reminds me of templates.
It basically allows you to tell the Go test, which there's a program called Go test. It's Go space test.
Oh.
And that basically tells Go test, T.fatal, the test failed. You can also do a warning. You can also just use it to print.
All right, now one thing I notice here is that it still uses format specifiers like C. What does this %V mean? Is that just like a generic, like a varchar? Do you know what that means? Have you seen that before?
That one is like a generic one.
Interesting, like
Not,
a variable.
But it's the same C ones. The same one as the C.
I don't know if %V is a C one. I haven't seen it before. Yeah. It may very well be, and I just don't remember.
Another one. It also has like really good HTTP like integration. Of
Wow,
course.
is this all it takes to run a web server?
Yeah.
Wow, that is basically like 12 lines of code to run a web server.
Yeah, which also I prefer using a web framework that Go has called Gin.
That's a fat mood.
Gin is like
InfluxDB, baby.
Yeah, InfluxDB
yeah, I use that all the time. All right, dude, I love that.
Docker is written in Go.
Kubernetes, baby.
Kubernetes is Go.
I didn't know that, actually. That's
Oh my
interesting.
God, there's a lot of stuff. Cloudflare.
Yeah, there is.
How many of these do I use? Dropbox?
Go is huge now.
Ethereum?
Heroku?
Wow. MongoDB,
Most
dude, I'm
of
impressed.
GitLab?
Netflix. Now, I wouldn't have expected
so
that.
much more written in Go than I ever would have
SoundCloud?
expected.
Twitch? Uber? Okay,
I would have
seems like
expected so much of that stuff to be written in like C or some C
Right.
derivative.
No, but they're like, because Go is so much faster to develop in C, it's worth it to switch to use Go instead. Even
All right.
You take like you end up adding like 6 or 7 times longer program execution.
Sure.
But usually
Sure.
you're waiting on like
Yeah.
IO anyway.
right. So
why
if you're
does it
waiting in
matter?
IO in another thread, it seems like that's almost negligible, right?
Exactly. And
That's
the amount
interesting.
of development speed you gain makes it worth it to switch to Go.
I think he's got me sold on Go. What about you guys at home? I never would have thought that, but my goodness,
And
that's
like,
impressive.
I was talking to my stepmom has never heard of Go before.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, it's just another trendy language that like nobody's
yeah,
going to use.
this is at least
That's clearly
for what
not
it's worth,
quite correct.
The stepmom at home, you viewers got to know that at least this is a stepmom who has experience with software design. So
She's
this
a
is
.NET developer for an enterprise
so
application.
yeah. That's it would be a hard sell, especially for me if I was trying to like bring this to the company. I'd be like, hey guys, we should use this. Maybe it'd be a hard sell just because
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm bringing in new ideas to a well-established group, but I would definitely be willing to argue for this because I'm quite impressed with what capabilities it offers, as well as the multi-threading capability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
then there's
multi-threading
also like
is
C
quite
style
nice.
structs. There's your structs from C.
Well, yeah, we use a lot of structs.
Which that's just built in.
Hey,
Which
yeah.
also, if you want to do object-oriented programming, this is how.
Oh, you can have your
can't
friend
read that.
functions.
Yes, your
Basically,
friend
so he's
functions.
what you've defined. Let's see. We have a function. Was this a constructor? Well,
no.
You have to
So-
follow the rest of this stuff. So area, here being a shape.
I will say that is one thing. Go, I don't actually think was designed with object-oriented programming in mind.
Well, it looks
It
tolerable.
wasn't. It's tolerable because it's almost like I wouldn't call it C++ because there's actually no constructors on your. When you make an object in Go, you make it as struct. There's no constructor.
They still use the math.pow
You
to
have
square
to,
a
if
number.
you want to make a constructor,
that's
you
C
have to
enough for me.
make a factory function to act as the constructor.
Factory function sounds like a constructor to me.
So do you know the concept of factory function? Basically, all a factory function is that it's a function that spits out a semi-complete version of your object that you can then.
What does semi-complete mean?
Basically, you use it as a constructor.
So does it initialize the members?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
pretty much. Is if it need well, they so.
Are you
Go,
are you initializing memory that's the width of those objects, but then not giving them a value? I don't understand.
Well, no.
I
The
guess.
idea is the factory function will initialize them and give them like default values.
Okay, so that sounds like a constructor,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all a factory function does.
And including the proper functions that you can then call on that structure.
Yeah. So
right?
usually a factory function is prefixed by new, which there's not
New,
new. There's
right.
no
No,
new
that makes
operator
sense,
in
sure.
Go.
Oh, there's not.
There's not. That doesn't need to be.
So you don't ask for a new instance of something. You just create one and it's assumed to be new?
They don't call it new. They call it make.
Oh,
It's a little
okay.
weird.
Well, that's fine. That
Yeah.
sort of
So
makes
like for
sense.
example, when you do channels, you have to make the channels.
Oh, okay. So I see there's this make function that then is calling
And then the new channel bool is being assigned to T. The new channel
with
string
the
is being assigned to
dog
CH.
balls operator.
There's also maps are built in. Those are automatic.
Oh, that's very Python to have maps.
Yes.
Okay.
There's map. Well, they're not like Python dictionaries.
Dictionaries, right? Okay.
Where you can have any value.
Oh, so we're talking like a
it's like
linked...
a C. It's a C style map.
Okay. Yeah. So what do
where
they call
you have
those?
to have like strings and then integers, or strings and strings, or integers and strings.
They have a name for those, right? Something something value array.
Key value pair.
Key value pair. That's the one I'm thinking of. Okay. Interesting. Well, that's
I
nice
should know this, but I don't. That's bad. Oh well.
Yeah, and then there's also like built-in JSON. There's built-in this, and then Go also has package.go.dev.
What's that?
What that does, if you write code comments into your say you write a module and you put it on GitHub.
Okay.
Sure, and you put code comments into what each function does. It will automatically generate you a web page.
You're about to tell me it makes documentation for all your functions?
Documentation for all of your functions that's available on the web to anyone.
Man, that's a
super
good one.
Awesome. That is, yeah.
Do I have you sold on Go yet?
I think I might have to give this a shot. All right.
I mean,
can I compile this on an Arduino?
I like Python.
Yes.
Though.
Yeah,
it's convenient.
You can.
Python does a lot of these things too. I mean, what's the one documentation tool?
Read the docs.io.
It's just slower. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's an interpreted
But
language.
read the docs.io, you have to manually go to and point at your Git repo and have it do all this configuration. Go does this automatically.
Yeah, this sounds like a language of the future. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, so-
C has been around for too long to
and
realize the benefits that
if
this
you are an
can bring.
Arduino guy, if you're an electronics guy,
Okay.
a project called TinyGo exists.
Okay, I want to check out
man.
TinyGo.
That
That's
will
where
let
I'm going to
I'll
go
have
is
to try
TinyGo.
that.
That will allow you to compile your Go programs for Arduino Unos and various other microcontroller platforms.
Do you think it'll fit on a ESP32?
Okay, so TinyGo is an alpha, so it's very new.
Okay.
And they do have ESP82.
Great, nothing will work.
Oh, let go.
Okay.
But yeah.
They do have ESP8266 functionality, but here's the problem.
I want an ESP32 though, damn
the
it.
Wi-Fi doesn't work.
The only thing that matters.
Oh,
Thank
man.
goodness I have this useless
Hey, that's
flash.
not the only thing that matters. You know, I need SPI or I2C
Yeah, you
or
could get
whatever.
the other things.
So you
Oh,
can get the other
also-
stuff, right?
Y'all ever heard of WASM?
WebAssembly.
You know,
Ah.
where the idea is
I
you
have,
can
yes.
run compiled code in your browser.
Thanks.
I've certainly heard of it.
But I've
Go
heard of
supports
it
that
and
too.
seen it and,
Interesting.
You need to compile for your browser. Now, there's one. Now that I've sold you guys on Go, let me talk about some of the cons. There's a few cons.
You sold me on Go for C applications. I don't know if you sold me on Go for web applications.
Well,
but,
okay.
But go crazy.
So here's the thing: it's just they support WebAssembly, but even like the guys at Go are like, well, the binaries are kind of big, and like it works, but just go use Rust if you're gonna use WebAssembly. Then like it supports it, but then
You
they
didn't sold me
like
on Rust either.
it supports it, and then like they really don't. After they support it, I haven't updated it since.
Okay, well.
the binaries are big. But TinyGo supports WebAssembly. Honestly, TinyGo's WebAssembly is better than the regular Go's WebAssembly.
Well, if I need to run a web page, I can't do it on an ESP8266 with Go, so maybe that's something to wait for a new update
let's wait
on.
until they update it.
All right,
But
all
here,
right.
I'm going to talk about the cons of Go now that I have you sold for C.
All right.
That's probably
let's see.
a good one. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
one, it's newer than C. It's been
newer
around
than
for
C.
a lot less.
It's a little less tested and everything.
Newer,
and
it's
newer. Oh yeah,
exciting.
here's all of the
Go
tools
build, go
that
test,
come
go
built in.
format, go install, go vet, go run, go doc, go rename, go generate. I like that. That's all included in the Go distribution.
All included in the Go compiler.
Pretty impressive.
The Go
Analyzing,
compiler is also,
testing,
I think
and building
the whole
code.
compiler chain is 75 megabytes.
Profiling, debugging support, runtime instrumentation, race condition tests. What does Go not have? And you're about to tell me in the drawbacks section.
Well,
here.
the drawbacks, one of the big it doesn't have any try. The error handling is a little messy. It doesn't have a try. It doesn't have a finally.
There's not a try catch. There's
No, error handle. So how error handling works is that do they have an example of it in the, of course.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to worry about errors. Those never happen.
Yeah, so how
case.
error handling works is that whenever you have Go supports functions that have two different like returns, where you can have a Python function that like returns a tuple where you can do a comma and then you can destruct that.
Oh yeah, and you can return multiple things in a Python.
So it said in 2018 they added
Yeah.
some kind of error handling support, but it doesn't seem that then it's very.
Let me just go pull up one
Yeah,
page.
we'll just see
But
what we
like,
got here.
so whenever you have a function, the function usually
yes.
returns comma error, and this is how you
Oh.
do error checking.
So
in
we
Go.
have multi-parameter returns on functions.
Yes.
That's something that I appreciate about Python that I wish I could include in the older languages.
Yeah.
So that's
the
nice.
idea is that the error is returned, and then they're like, all right, you figure out what to do about the error.
Well, that's basically how,
That's how C pretty much works.
Well, that is, as somebody who works intimately with Node.js, that's how Node.js works. You always, almost every single function you give it, you're always going to give it a callback function, and you're always going to get your data and your error if it exists, and the error is always the first argument. So basically, if your callback function has anything in it, you can always assume there's an error, but you always have to handle that. If you get an error in a callback function in Node, it's like, well, if you never look for it, you won't see it, you know?
The problem I guess the problem isn't Go itself. The problem is that programmers abuse this fact.
I agree there. Yeah.
Because the comma error thing is so common, what people will do is that if like one of their low-level libraries has an error, they'll just pass the error up. And they'll just pass the error up.
Raise it.
And then by the time you get to the end of the stack, the normal developer is like, okay, this super low-level library is causing it. I don't know how to fix it.
Ultimately, it's like then you use this library someone else created, and if you don't check for errors in that library, it will error, and you will not be able to find out because you're not checking for it. So you still have the burden of error checking someone else's library, even though they've written a library for you.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah, it's a little annoying, but honestly, with all of its benefits, this is something I can deal with.
That seems fair. I mean, I guess if you understand that going into it, I can see how if you
what
just
if you're
wrote
not
good
good
enough
at
code.
error correction or error checking?
GITGUD.
I think he's
all right. I didn't realize we were gatekeeping today. Okay, sure.
And honestly, so there are like guides on how you're supposed to properly do error check. For example, if you're lazy and it's like you're the type of person to say if there's an error, just crash the program.
Well, that's the atomic option.
There's a keyword called panic.
Hey, all right.
You just run panic and then the error, and then it'll just panic the error and crash the program.
Interesting. So they have this errors.new, and that's kind of like an error constructor.
That's if you want to make a custom error.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all errors.new does. So the types can get a little confusing and a little convoluted. I like how they're what I would like to call
float
precise.
64.
There's float 32, float 64.
So,
there's int 8 all the way up to 64.
Oh, there's a deer outside. Sorry, I'm very distracted.
There's a big int.
Is a double and a float 64
the same thing?
They are the same thing. Okay, that's fine. So it's just kind of weird naming, I guess.
Yeah,
but
and
I
like when you do int, it defaults to 32-bit int, which is a little annoying.
Well, okay, as somebody who's worked with the embedded world, I have found more and more that almost every low-level driver, operating system, everything, they're just going to use the explicit type declarations anyway. Like everything I've ever used is going to say like uint 8t because they all just use those template functions because you never know what an int is on your operating system. In C, it's always dependent on whatever environment you're in. Sometimes an int is 64-bit, sometimes it's 32, sometimes it's 8.
32 in Go, but that's also a few times it's not. And it's a little annoying.
So do they still have those explicit types you can do for everything?
int 64, uint 64, stuff like that.
Well, I like that at least. I could just get used to that on the at least in the embedded side of things.
Yeah, so it's a little weird for people coming from Python, which apparently that's a common thing with Go.
Well, yeah,
that's a common thing is that people go from instead of going to C, they're like, well, nobody uses C anymore. We're gonna go.
Okay. First of all, ouch.
Sorry, Alex, you're outdated.
Well, but I mean, it makes sense.
You're in the embedded world. This is people running to take their Python web app and make it uber fast.
Yeah, okay. I can see why people would be a little bit hesitant to first get into the different types.
Another thing is the when you compare it to C and Rust and other more mature compiled languages, the binaries are fucking huge.
Okay, what are we talking? Like
my binary...
Twice the size, third the size?
The binary for my Discord bot is like 20 megabytes.
Okay, that's kind of
strange. So how would that compare to C?
I wonder.
But
how
here's
that compares.
the thing: it's 20 megabytes. Well, C,
Your Discord bot is pretty simple, though, right?
In a simpler language that's not Go, what would it be?
If you could just estimate.
A meg max.
Okay, so 20 times bigger.
But here's the thing: Go includes everything you need in that binary. So there's no other there's no DLLs, there's no SO.
But you're saying, so if I understand this correctly, it's sort of like the same kind of C drawback you have, where if you include a library that you don't need, you're still adding size to your binary that you don't need. Is that right?
Go will cut the dependencies out it doesn't need.
So you're saying everything in that 20 megabyte binary is necessary, at least for your code to run?
Yeah, because 6 megabytes worth of just standard library is in there.
Okay.
I don't have a huge issue with that, but that's a lot of standard library.
It might be. I'm actually, let's go see how much it is.
I'm a little curious, though. Well, but still, even then, one thing I've noticed with C is that it's nice that you can write a simple program that basically uses no libraries, and it can be like kilobytes at best. But then, you run into the problem where if you start, if you have to include the math library, and also we need like the IO library, and also we need like the manipulations of IO.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
We start stacking. Oh wait, well there's this third-party library that does all this stuff, and then next thing you know, it's like megabytes and tens of megabytes.
One perk of Go, since we're talking about comp,
he's building his code right now. For those of you at home, this is kind of fun to watch.
One, it's automatically multi-threaded. Two, if your dependencies aren't installed and you like just git clone to program,
it's just fetching everything. That's beautiful.
That is super nice. I like
what is this Google Doc? Google.golang.org. That's cute.
So there, it's done compiling. Let's see how big let's see.
Compilation time has me sold. That was pretty quick.
It is 17 megabytes.
17 megabytes for the Discord quick
So pretty close to 20.
Go check out the quick
Very
meme
impressive.
bot. Am I allowed to plug your bot?
Quick
meme. It's a good meme.
So to counter this, I found a few tools that help me out.
What is your prompt key? Is that just a cursive X?
What? I don't know. I actually don't know what this
You didn't do that on purpose?
In,
That's so funny. I love that.
So one of I found this thing called UPX, which stands for Universal Packer for Executables.
Okay.
And it works on any language.
Any language.
Any language. It doesn't just work on Go. It was originally designed for C, but it turned out that it worked on any x86 and ARM executable.
Okay.
All right.
And the idea is that it takes your executable and it compresses it as low as it can, and then it embeds a decompression algorithm into the program. So when you run the program, it automatically decompresses and runs it as if it was the full-size program.
At runtime.
Interesting.
At runtime. Yeah. So for example, if I type in UPX-9, which is the highest compression ratio you can do.
Oh my.
And I type in
okay, let's see what we're running with here.
Meme.
Oh, it's churning away pretty quickly, actually. So what is this, the compression rate here?
Yeah.
Oh, so what is it going to do? 7 passes?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
And
ratio, so 47%. We got it down to,
of the
what is this
size.
in bytes?
So what, roughly 10 megs?
8 megabytes. I don't know. I don't want to do the math. Let's call it around 8 megabytes.
Almost 18 megabytes to 8.5 megabytes.
Okay.
All right. Well, not bad.
That was a good way to get around it.
So what does the decompression time look like? I mean, I guess it doesn't
really
matter.
That is a good question, yeah.
Shout out to Marcus Oberhumer, Laszlo Molnar, and John Reeser for creating this in 2020.
It would have that
no Discord token specified, so you have to. Okay, sure.
No, the decompression.
But
was effectively
it ran basically instantly. Yeah, I guess we can say that we saw that run almost instantly.
Isn't that cool?
It was
that
pretty
is
quick.
Pretty impressive. Yeah. UPX. Check out UPX at home.
I'll have to take a look into it if I make anything.
Yeah.
That, you know,
but Go, and also Go uses the C style thing of having a main function.
Okay.
And then when you do package main. Package main is the program that runs.
So is that a namespace?
Yeah, the package is the namespace.
Okay.
And then what you can do is you can make new then you can make new folders and do like package library.
Okay, and then when you go to your main, you include
library dot.
You don't import it, or how do you?
Well, you
how does
also
that work?
import
So you
it.
import it, and then you run it in this like.
And it's like
there's a
whatever
scope
the
operator
namespace
sort of.
names is. It's the namespace dot whatever.
So
you're
you
trying
say
to
like
call.
then package dot
Yeah.
function name, and then that's how you call it in here. If you don't, is there a way to use like in C++ where you use a namespace and then you don't have to define it every time?
What you do is you import it, but then right before the import, which by the way, imports are usually just Git repos.
Sure.
You just add an underscore. Oh. And then it imports it as if it was in the same namespace.
So, okay, that's actually really interesting to see how that scope works.
And then you can also, using that same strategy, instead of putting an underscore, you can rename the library, the namespace to whatever you want. So if like you have
use it as something like in
if you have like
Python.
two namespaces that are both called API, you can do like API and API utils.
Import API as bongo.
Something like that.
All right, okay.
And yeah, that's pretty much Go. It's one of my favorite languages. It's really, really cool. It's got
all right.
It's faster than Python, so I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. TBH, I think the hardest thing that would be for me to at least get used to would be the definition for variables, like the order of type. So it's like
like when you're making a function, the type is after the.
It is
the
weird
name.
to throw the type after the name.
You can also do shortcuts where you can do like first name, comma, last name, and then the type, and it will assume the type for the entire thing.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
Okay.
I love that. That's what I use all the time. If I want to define like 3 ints, I'll just dump them all there because I don't care what they're
But that's like a C thing anyway, right?
Yeah,
you could just
you
do
can-
int,
yeah.
X, Y,
Say
Z,
X, Y, Z,
whatever.
yeah, sure.
With commas
That's
separating
pretty cool.
them, of course.
Well, you sold me on Go. I'm pretty impressed with it. I'll have to try one of my projects here soon and Go.
I mean, I'm probably going to have to look back into it, but I'll probably not
But look at
continue
how much,
to use
but
it
it's
if
still
I'm
like
being
really
honest.
common
I
too,
don't
and
know.
Go apparently uses it for a bunch of its internal tools.
a lot of people that I've seen before, a lot of companies.
Yeah.
Docker has
I think that's the impressive
tools
part.
in Go.
Docker
The
is
fact that
entirely
there's
written in
so
Go.
many
That's
people who have
crazy.
used it. Yeah.
It's clearly not as underground as I thought it was going to be. Now, I don't know how this would compare to like the list of things that use Rust, which I know is a lot more restrictive and less prevalent.
But
out
how
there
does
in
it
the world.
compare to the things that use C?
It isn't.
Oh, God.
You
Yeah.
can't
It doesn't.
compare
Yeah,
it.
you can't compare.
No. I'm well aware of that.
I imagine
Yeah.
most of the world runs on C.
You're probably not wrong.
But you didn't know that over 3 billion devices run Java. You know?
Oh my god.
Over 3 billion, you know?
Yeah, speed-wise,
That drives me insane.
comparable to Java. But
Java is a virus.
I love that there's like a data meme, and it's like data IRL or something. It's a chart of devices that run Java over time, and from like the introduction of Java, it's just a straight line that says 3 billion.
Oh my god.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Actually
also,
a meme.
It is, yeah.
That's great.
It's like a programmer meme.
That's
one more
great.
thing before we switch topics.
All right,
Just
before
one more
we start talking about something
Go
else.
thing.
Yes.
Cross compilation natively supported.
Wow, I could use that. That's
So you can compile an art for your Raspberry Pi and your desktop. You can compile for like the only one that's not supported. I think Mac is stupid. You can't cross.
Who cares?
Well, it is
Who
a
cares?
Mac, so who cares? Yeah, right. You know, only like a third of the is
my
it closer to
favorite thing
15%? I don't know. What
You got to use
percent of the
iMovie to
population
compile anyway. That's
Yeah,
all it
right.
is.
iMovie. But it was.
I compile.
No.
But it was really nice when I wrote a Go program for my Raspberry Pi. I didn't have to wait for the Pi 3 hours to fucking compile it. I could just compile it real fast on my desktop and then transfer it over.
It's certainly convenient. Yeah,
I like that.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what I also used to do with my Discord bot is that I would build it in the cloud and I would have it compile for the Pi, Linux, and Windows.
Okay, so you could just run it wherever.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
that.
that's nice.
It was really cool. I don't know. I thought it was a cool feature.
Well, I don't see any reason why not to switch to Go for my personal projects, other than that it won't work with the ESP. But other than that,
Yeah.
my preferred microcontroller. Other than that,
Apparently, if you're really a masochist,
Is the
you can
ESP now
compile
your
Go to
preferred
JavaScript.
microcontroller?
what's that?
Is the ESP now your preferred micro?
I will swear by it that once I bought that pack of $4 Node
Nice.
MCU knockoffs, man, it's so convenient to have the Wi-Fi enabled on a piss poor secure network.
you're not wrong. It's super useful.
Any Wi-Fi comms on my MQTT chatter
I
on my
respect
server.
it.
Yeah,
it's
so
become
convenient.
my preferred
It's so
like
convenient.
microcontroller. Super fast too. Yeah.
So
so convenient.
You open up a publisher, so you have your publisher to just send commands to your device, and it's always subscribing to a certain channel. You have a control channel for every device. You can just always send it commands. Send it a command to reboot. Send it a command to turn on. It doesn't matter. There's so much. I love MQTT. I'd love to talk about that. Once I get this project to work all the way, I have like a list of things I want to do. I'd love to talk about it more. But MQTT, if you need like low-level stuff that's easy chatter on a network, that's the way to do it. Control all your devices with a simple message queuing service, and MQTT.
Got it.
Easy to run.
So there's two things I forgot to mention about
All right,
Go.
2 more Go points here. Let's hear
Oh,
it.
boy.
One, it doesn't have manual memory management.
Really?
All right.
So
It garbage collects.
I like that it has a garbage collector. Does it work better than me?
Yes.
Okay.
In my
I believe
opinion,
you.
yes.
No,
but
I believe you.
But that's the thing. I'm also used to JavaScript and Python. So for like
Yeah.
me to go to a statically typed compiled language, Go is like the perfect choice because
That's
I don't
fair.
have to deal
Sure.
with memory management. It's really fast. It's not hard to code in. It auto formats like JavaScript does for me.
Yeah. So if you're saying though
Yeah.
that you don't manually have to free memory when you're done with it, how does the program know you're done with memory?
Good question. I have no clue.
So I mean, like, I guess my
Out of
question would be
scope,
like,
I mean,
I
I would
think-
Right,
assume
if
there's
you're out
something
of
with
scope.
compilation, right? Since you
Yeah.
would sort of know when you're done with it when you compile.
I guess that's fair if you because
like
that's
if
what
you
he brought up.
if you break it down to assembly, you would know when you're done with memory, and you could
Right.
just ignore it or overwrite it or whatever, right?
I guess that's true. I mean, you can look at when your last reference is of a certain variable. 'Cause
Yeah.
If you don't,
and then
refer
if
to
you
it anymore,
never
you don't
use
need
it past that, you can just overwrite it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
Every
suppose
single
branches and stuff would maybe mess with that.
I don't know what difference
though.
that would make, but that's a good
Right.
point. That even every compiler I've ever worked at, I'm sorry, I'm talking C compiler. Every C compiler I've worked with has that warning that always says, this was declared but then never used or something.
Yeah.
Like, they can detect when you're done using a variable.
It's
Go
just,
won't
I
even
guess
let you
maybe they
compile.
never.
Oh, you can't compile with warnings?
The compiler will fail if you have an extra
That's
variable.
sort
Very
of annoys
strict.
me.
Well, but it
But
makes
I
sense.
suppose it
If you're
makes
going to
You
have
can
a strict
disable
rule
it
set.
if you're. You can actually go through and disable
Okay.
a lot of the warning flags.
I'm
By
remembering all of our...
default, all warnings are treated as errors in Go.
Right. I remember having
That's
our,
a good thing, though.
all the-
I saw a thread on Reddit or something, probably, where everyone's like, "Yeah, just ignore the errors or the or not the
Yeah.
Ignore
but
the warnings,
warnings,
it'll work.
whatever." But no,
yeah,
you
that's
really
kinda what we
should
do.
be paying attention to the
Sure.
warnings because they could be really serious, and then you
Yeah.
combine 2 warnings together, and suddenly you have an error.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to just ignoring them, but most of the time it's stuff
I
like...
mean, I'll ignore them for personal projects, but
Oh, really? For work, a lot of our stuff is like, well, you use this, you declare this function, but never
personal
used it.
projects are like, a breathalyzer or some stupid whatever.
Stay posted,
No, that's never happening.
Okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah, stay posted until next year.
Yeah, maybe we'll finish it someday. That's my whole project directory right now. It's just maybe someday.
Maybe someday.
I'll finish this. Probably
that's
not.
trademarked. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's
Maybe
little,
someday.
The compiler's a little strict.
Soon TM, right?
Yeah,
Like, for
soon
example-
TM, but that we actually mean never. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was running some unit tests on some code we wrote the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Some unit tests, and the unit tests were failing because some unrelated code had a warning.
Nice.
Perfect.
And they
That's
were just
great.
outright failing it. So I went and I just said, this is a really simple fix. I'm just gonna fucking fix it. But this is
There you
annoying.
go. They forced you to write better code. That's the selling point, right?
That was literally ENG's selling point to me. It is a language that doesn't let you be a bad programmer.
That's fair, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, it's sort of important.
I think that it's really easy,
more than
especially.
sorta.
Well, we've talked about things like Python and even I would say JavaScript, and I guess you could even include C in that. It's very easy to write shit code that works, but it's like.
I mean, I've done it. Yeah.
Yeah, people hate reading your code. I mean, if you write something that's not very portable, try running it on another computer.
In C, how many lines of code can you write on a single line? Basically, as many as you want, and it becomes unreadable.
You can make some pretty obscure stuff.
You can make some really bad things.
That's why they always say security by obscurity, right? I don't need
right.
I don't need
All
closed
of my
source.
code's written
Try
on a
to read
single
it.
line.
Try to
Good
understand
luck.
my code. I dare you.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was my explanation of Go. I hope I have sold you guys. Thank you for coming to my TEDx talk.
Yeah, I like it. You got me
It's a
sold.
little longer than a TED talk. I don't know.
I'm going to be checking this one out. I don't know. I think maybe
This was
Go is
50
worth
minutes
exploring.
of me ranting about Go.
I'm
Yes,
sold.
sir.
Well,
All right, well, what are some of the other topics we want to talk about?
I don't remember. You're the one who wrote them down.
yeah, I wrote down one other thing we were going to talk about before I go into something a little lighter hearted, a little different vein. We're going to talk a little bit about AMD Ryzen, which I know Chandler also brought up, and maybe we'll be able to include some more
Let me
discussion
go
in
open
this.
up the article so I can read it.
Oh, he's talking about the AMD Ryzen 7000, baby.
I thought it was
AMD
6,000. Am I dumb?
on
I thought it was
Valent-
6,000. Am I dumb?
7,000, baby.
All
No, so
right,
six-
7,000.
So let
I'm
me-
uneducated here, so
Let me
educate
explain to
me.
you why they skipped. They went from 5,000 to 6,000.
Yes.
No,
Or did
7,000.
5,000 to 7,000?
Yes.
The 6,000's in laptops, though.
Yes,
Yeah,
the mobile
6,000
CPUs.
is only in mobile.
Right.
They're not doing them anywhere else.
Right.
That's fine.
So also the Ryzen 6000 are the mobile line of Zen 3 CPUs.
Yes.
Okay.
While 7000 is Zen 4.
Yep.
Zen 4.
So, and Alex, I know you're a little uninitiated on the Zen thing.
That's correct. I have very little experience in it.
AMD's, when they released their new not garbage processors
Yeah.
in 2016,
I don't
they
even
were,
know what my
FX
server's
they were
running.
called the Ryzen microarchitecture.
Okay.
Well, they were branded as Ryzen, but technically the Zen architecture. And every generation, there was Zen, and then there was Zen Plus, which was the 2000 series, Zen 2. And then after that, they went 2, 3, 4. I don't think they did. Did they ever do a 2 Plus? I don't think they did.
I don't think so.
Because they were like, they had like Plus was their like 0.5 revision or something like that. Like slightly improved, but like it's not enough changes for us to call it a completely new microarchitecture.
Sorry, I just had to look up on my server. I installed, I built my server like 5 years ago.
Is that a new Ubuntu logo I see?
And I have no idea what's in it. I'll be honest, I picked all the cheapest parts I could find to get my server to work.
It's an AMD processor.
It's an AMD A10 7890K Radeon R7 4C plus
That is
8
running
G4 at 4.1
Bulldozer.
gigahertz.
That is running Bulldozer,
man.
which is a
It's got
architecture
16 gigs of RAM.
from 2009.
I
been
remember
up for
the
14
A
days.
series. Wow.
Yeah.
yeah,
Ubuntu
Bulldozer is old.
18, dude. I need to upgrade my server. It's kind of sad. But
I wonder if I could
Runs over.
upgrade that old laptop that I've got.
NeoFetch,
the old laptop
baby.
CPU is socketed.
This is what Arch users don't want to know. NeoFetch is bloatware.
Oh no! That's a good one.
It is. And I have NeoFetch for my Arch build.
Sorry, I'm getting a
I
little
am
off
legally
topic.
obligated
bloated.
to run NeoFetch once a day.
No. Stop.
all right. So anyway, the 7000
Ryzen
here.
7000.
Ryzen
They are
7K.
going away from PGA. They're not going to use PGA anymore.
That's sort of unfortunate, if I'm being honest. I like PGA,
Why?
maybe a little more
Why?
than LGA.
It doesn't matter.
You're
in my
a fan
opinion,
of
it
it.
doesn't matter. It's
I
just
don't
a
care.
sound.
It doesn't
never
matter.
look at it, like-
it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
PGA is easier
They're
to
using,
fix, though.
what is it? I think it was LGA 17 something.
17.
didn't
Is it
Intel use
1700?
that, or
am I
No, 1700 is, yeah, that's the Intel one.
They're using LGA like 1718 or something like that.
That makes me uncomfortable.
How is LGA defined?
LGA,
Well, it's something, it's a gate
land
array.
grid array.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
a grid array.
sure.
Grid array, okay.
Land grid
So
array.
it's 17
And
by
it's basically
18,
the
or is
pins
it?
are You know what it is. Pins around the motherboard.
Yeah.
Pressure on top. Well, for our
I'm wondering how the array is defined, though. Is it like
no
17 by 18 pins, or is it 17, 18, or how?
Oh, no,
like
they're
the
doing the
number
Intel
of
thing of it's
pins?
just a pin
It used to be the
count.
pin count. Yeah,
pin
it
count.
still is.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't have a package here on the Ryzen 7000. They don't explicitly say, so I'm
Got
not
it.
sure. Oh, sorry. Zen 4 IHS designed for AM5 LGA. Yep, 1718 package has been leaked. So we do have the package as 1718.
Yeah, so it's 1,718 pins.
Perfect.
Is AM5 gonna like stay around for as long as AM3
So
and AM4?
they
you think?
claim they're going to do the same thing they did with AM4 because like the whole pull of AM4 when AMD announced
I
this,
mean, I
we're
love
going to
it.
support this through 2022.
Yeah.
That was their announcement thing. And guess what? They have
did it.
delivered on their promise.
Yeah.
Beautiful. You love to see it.
I mean, I like that. That means that you could buy a motherboard, whatever, like
have a
low
first-gen
tier
Ryzen
now,
motherboard.
and then upgrade it to super high tier way later
Yeah.
down
Yes.
the road.
I have a
love it.
first-gen
Yeah,
Ryzen
it's great.
scalability.
And in
Yeah.
theory, I should be able to drop a 5000 series chip into it. It should work.
Yeah,
Isn't that good?
and that's
Isn't that
great. That's awesome. That is.
Wish
like,
more people would do that.
The upgradability
Yeah, well-
of there is huge.
Why don't you
That's
just
great
directly
for the-
solder the CPU onto the motherboard?
Well, that's
Alright.
why.
Yeah.
The new Zen 4 architecture is 5 nanometer.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's the
Is
smallest
that-
I've heard of.
That's TSMC's.
TSMC, yes.
Yep.
It's TSMC who's going to be doing
Okay.
it. It's
5 nanometer
15%
process node.
boost in speed over Ryzen 5000 minimum.
1.8
Alright.
times transistor density over N7. That's a lot of transistors, huh?
Wow.
A lot. I don't know.
It's too many to count.
And,
We'll just leave it
apparently
there.
it uses 30% less power.
I like that.
I know that the 6000 series had a super high, like, power efficiency rating.
Sure.
So it was, I don't know, supposedly way better at drawing low power, but I don't think that was totally true.
Apparently they said that they
my
can
God.
get up to 5 gigahertz no problem. on
But they
these
said
chips.
boosting clock speeds over 5 gigahertz at boost would be a big improvement. So they
So-
didn't do that?
6 gigahertz
So
CPU.
5
Let's
gigahertz?
go.
So 5 gigahertz.
It's like critical.
Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I don't know.
So their 5 gigahertz is all core. That's every single core in your system will be running at 5 gigahertz.
That's
very
insane to me.
impressive.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then they have single core boosts of over 5 gigahertz.
I don't know
alright.
about this. Sorry.
Give me 6 gigs on my CPU.
Yeah.
They also said that the platform will probably be all DDR5,
Okay.
which is a little unfortunate because the way
don't
that,
like
that Intel's doing it is that their current generation is compatible with DDR4 and DDR5 depending on what motherboard you
Oh,
buy.
so it's
Yeah,
exclusive.
because people are scalping DDR5 as
Yeah.
expected.
Even or you can just go
Yeah.
order it directly from Corsair and
right
Micron
back.
and not pay the extra price.
Yeah.
Even then, DDR5 is expensive, dude. Like
I
even
know.
even without scalping, it's expensive. It's like $300 for a 32 gig kit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that my RAM when I built my computer after DDR was pretty like ubiquitous as far as like,
Were you like
componentry
on
goes.
DDR4 at the
No,
time?
I bought DDR3
Oh.
because I could afford it. I mean, it fit in with the budget. It was available.
Oh, did you have one of the Skylake processors that could do DDR3 or 4?
Oh god, I'm gonna have to remember because I don't remember. I don't remember at the time. At the time I built my computer in general, it was 2016. I know that there were newer. I think there was a newer generation or two available at the time. So sorry, we're gonna have to do a throwback way back in the day that my current processor is still a 6400. What is the hell?
6400?
6350, 6400. I don't remember how they did there. It was the medium low end, the 6th generation i5, and yeah, at the time I was like, well, I could, shell out all this money for all this stuff, or I could save some money. And what I wanted to do was build a computer for under $850, including the graphics card. So I met my target in the good old days before the old scalping Bitcoin crypto
well,
boom.
this is the second time this has happened, which is the
Yeah,
worst thing.
so I was glad to be able to get a lot of the componentry. I couldn't believe I got whatever it was. I had 16 gigs for less than I think I got my 16 gigs of memory for $60, which I don't know if today that's still
can't do
unheard
that.
of. That's
That's
still
unheard
unheard of. So I had a good deal at the time, but yeah, it's just thinking back to that. I'm like, God, I wish I could rebuild a PC in 2016 now. But yeah, yeah. So anyway, I did go on the lower end of things. I know that I didn't get the highest clock speed my motherboard supported either. So I don't know if, I honestly, it's been so long, I don't remember the specs, but basically I went for a medium end PC, lower medium end PC, and it's still gone this long. So,
So they're saying overall performance,
Yeah.
of everything at the end of the day,
Sure.
40% faster than Zen 3.
okay.
And they also, so here's the current prices of Zen 3, okay?
Yep.
Which, by the way, AMD is getting a little bit ripped on because when they first launched Zen's whole pull was that more cores for cheaper, so it's better than Intel.
More cores is more better.
More cores for cheaper. Now, they don't have any low-end CPUs available on the desktop at all.
Yeah, those are some steep
The
prices.
minimum, the cheapest Ryzen 5000 CPU
What is that? The
you can buy,
3600 or am I
the 5600
Sorry, 56.
is $280.
Yeah.
That's a little steep.
5800.
I got
Ryzen
my
7
2600X for like $200.
I don't even know
yeah,
what my server
$80.
cost. It was dirt cheap,
Yeah.
dude. I think I
$80
replaced the
is a lot
motherboard
of
and the
money.
server in that for like
I
$300.
got a deal on mine though because I got it with the motherboard
Yeah,
bundle.
yeah,
but
you get
still.
the bundle.
Micro Center
Bundle,
for the
baby!
win!
Actually,
baby!
It was actually Newegg.
Oh, you got a Newegg
Wait,
one, huh?
Newegg
really?
bundle, and it was a
Hell
really good
yeah.
deal. Yeah.
That's impressive.
That was my first PC was on Newegg, actually.
Yeah.
I bought a lot
I'm
of parts
surprised,
at
man.
my
You didn't end up with a motherboard that had bent pins. I'm sorry, that's bad.
Oh no. So yeah, but the Ryzen 5000 5600X is $280. They're thinking there's going to be like a 20-ish% price bump.
I mean, 280 to
Again,
380
what?
is a
So
hell of a
now
step.
the lowest end CPU is going to be
Like $300.
$300.
Yeah.
Good
That's a
Lord.
lot. So they're like, okay, cool. They're really performant, and they're outperforming Intel in games in a lot of applications. All right.
What is the
I will give
cheapest
them that.
Intel CPU?
You can
then?
get. I bought it.
question.
Like
They had the old
Like
one. We were talking about,
everything's
the-
gone up.
They still
right?
have like the Celeron.
So-
I
yeah.
just found out.
If you
like,
really
Yeah,
want,
you're right. They do got that celery.
So like the
Sorry, you were drinking.
Yeah,
It's
ooh.
so
okay.
the
It's a
cheapest,
good meme. It's a good
Yeah,
meme.
it's-
The
Yeah, I like
cheapest
that.
gaming CPU that Intel has, which is the
Okay, yeah, I
i3
guess I want their gaming.
1300.
Gaming.
What?
It's like
i3.
$120.
All right.
That's not too bad. That sounds about right.
I feel like AMD's got to come down if they want to really,
Yeah, like for
you
example,
know, fight in
Alex,
that market.
we were
though.
pricing out you like a
Right.
gaming PC using the newest Intel
they
chips.
want to build me a new PC, and they've got me sold on the
I mean, you
latest, top of the line. It's the 12400.
It's the 12400.
12400.
Listen,
$180 at Micro Center.
180
bucks?
That's
That's
cheaper
not
than that
bad.
processor I have in mind. I mean, at the time, again.
And instead of getting 4 cores and 4 threads like you have now, you're getting 6 cores and 12 threads.
As we all
6
know,
cores, 12 threads
more
is great.
cores
I
is
gotta
more
say.
better.
More cores, more better. Yeah,
more threads, more better.
And just your
Duh.
single-threaded
Obviously.
performance is going to be like a huge uplift.
that's true.
You're literally
Yeah.
doubling. You're going from a 66,
Hey, all right.
6400 to a...
It's also not even just gigahertz though. It's also instruction. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
more
We're bringing it back to
efficiency,
instruction
more-
count per or
yeah,
instructions per
IPC,
clock,
baby.
clocks per instruction, whatever. Yeah,
So they're
that also
also-
improves per generation. So yeah.
So they're also going to have PCIe 5.0, which, by the way, 4.0 just fucking came
Yeah,
out like
when-
last
hold
year.
up. Yeah,
And
right.
they're already going to 5.0 at the end of this year.
I don't mean to be
What
too
the
pedantic, but who the hell's using PCI Express cards? I'm sorry, is that the GPU? What the hell do they call it?
GPU.
GPU
PCIe
slot?
is
That's
your
the
GPU.
PCI
Express.
Express, yeah.
Yeah, PCIe.
PCI.
That's a GPU
so
card.
PCIe and PCIe Express, right?
same
PCI
thing.
Express.
They're
That's
the
It's
the same thing?
PCI and then
PCI
PCIe. So it's PCIe Express.
Okay, so that's only for the graphics card slot, right? The longest one.
That's all of them. That's all
It's
of
all
those
of them?
slots,
So it's
yeah.
the whole bus?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't use these cards anymore. The only thing I use them for is a graphics card. I've lost all
Correct.
If
meaning
you
in
have
the
an
PCI
NVMe
world.
SSD, you're using lanes. You're using PCIe
Oh,
lanes.
see, I only recently upgraded to that stuff when my
Yeah.
hard drive filled up, and I was like, geez, now I need to shut down
Yeah,
my
your
SATA
NVMe,
ports.
your NVMe SSDs are PCIe lanes. Your
Wow.
GPU is PCIe lanes. If you're using like hard drive expansion cards, those are going to be PCIe lanes. Your
He's not
wireless
right.
cards are PCIe lanes. So
I guess I don't have
they
one of those
sort of
either.
get used. Well,
Yeah.
you technically, well, that depends. If you're only Ethernet, then yeah,
I
you
use
don't
an
need
onboard
one.
Ethernet
But
with
if
the
you have
Ethernet controller.
onboard Wi-Fi,
I don't use
your
onboard
onboard
Wi-Fi.
Ethernet might use PCIe lanes.
I don't know,
Wrong. It might
'cause,
be some other lane in
Well,
there.
they
but
basically Ethernet
if you've
is
got
sort
onboard
of like you
Wi-Fi,
are,
it's probably using PCIe
if
lanes.
I remember. Yeah.
Anyway, Ryzen's coming.
Anyway, yeah.
Ryzen's coming. It's going to be fun.
Ryzen is
Ryzen
coming.
is rising. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
all right,
sorry,
All right,
that was
so
really
let's
bad.
transition to our last topic.
Okay, our
Okay,
last topic,
all
and
right.
this is one that is near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to ask everybody here about because this is
Okay.
something that I've noticed. You know, I had 5 years of school. I got to see something that I feel like we kind of all had our own experience with in school, and I'm just kind of curious how this has progressed into our life. It's kind of a common stereotype with people in our software engineering sort of lifestyle, and it's something I want to talk about. I want to talk about drug addiction.
Oh.
What I want to know is caffeine, right? Caffeine
yes.
is the most common drug in the world here right now.
You're not wrong about that
socially
one.
acceptable to be like, don't talk to me until I've had my cup of joe, right? It's a little weird when you kind of like take an objective standpoint. You're like,
I mean, if you group in caffeine with cocaine, maybe,
well,
well.
I mean, they're in the same class, right? What I want to know is like, as a programmer who in school was fueled by caffeine, I would have obscene amounts of caffeine to get all my work done.
I mean, as long as it's not Adderall.
Well, you know, it's just.
I don't know. What's the difference, though? They're both stimulants, right?
I know. See, this is one thing I always thought when I was in school.
It's such an interesting thing. Caffeine is a socially acceptable drug.
Right. It's socially acceptable, so it's
I don't know.
okay.
Cocaine isn't.
Well,
and they're both drugs. They're both,
right.
you know, in a way, mind-altering substances.
But that's what I always thought. I was like, dude, I feel like I always performed better on the SAT, even in high school, or the ACT, or whichever, when I was all like jacked up on caffeine. Man,
Damn, that was the solution. I don't drink coffee. Man,
Well, that's what you're missing.
Damn.
I would chug a coffee and I'd be like, let's go. And I would just like start filling into circles like crazy.
that's why my ACT was so low. I had to
That's
start taking
it.
shots of espresso.
You weren't taking enough caffeine.
Damn.
So that's what I'm curious. I'm just like, as I have grown from my student life into a new chapter of my life where I'm working full time in a business and I don't need to like pump out work every day. I can take a day to just research stuff and that's okay. I'm curious as to how you're, as a group here, how you're kind of like addiction, I guess. We'll leave it there. It's an
I
addiction.
already know Ian doesn't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Do you have any caffeine at all?
I mean, I'll occasionally have a tea, but it's usually non-caffeinated tea. So
that's no caffeine?
Like, I'll maybe occasionally have
We
a
have two
caffeine,
extremes
but like
here.
just because it's in like a soft drink or something that I'm offered while playing D&D or something. Like,
Right.
here's a Mountain Dew. We're playing D&D. All right, sure, I'll crack it open
Right.
and drink it, but I try not to consume caffeinated beverages after, I don't know, 6 or 7 in the evening.
Your threshold is a lot later than me then. Well, what I'm wondering though is that like, so a Mountain Dew is like 40. I'm probably not
I don't know.
perfect on this, but
Meanwhile,
I'm
I
guessing it's
wouldn't
around
know. I couldn't
43.
tell you.
I think it's 43 milligrams
Some
of caffeine.
amount of caffeine.
That's not
So
a lot.
in general, a cup of coffee, this is usually what they say. A cup of coffee is about 100 milligrams caffeine. If you're getting it from Starbucks, different story. They can
Yeah,
load
it's
it up
just
with
a bunch of
caffeine,
sugar.
or it
Or-
can just be sugar.
Okay.
Right. So it depends on what you get. In general, when you brew something at home with your drip coffee, it's going to be about 100 milligrams of caffeine per cup. And then black tea, which is like the lighter end of things, is about 50 milligrams of caffeine. Technically, decaf's got something on the order of like 5 milligrams of caffeine, which is basically negligible.
Nothing, yeah.
And then green tea, maybe again 5 to 10. White tea, a little bit more. But in general,
I've
coffee,
never had
about
a
100.
white tea, actually.
They're pretty great.
I should try that. I'll add it to
Maybe
the
I'll
list of things
maybe
to
I'll
try.
bring my tea next time we come.
Oh
over.
boy, casual tea drinkers, casual
There we go.
alcoholics,
So,
casual
yeah,
caffeine
a
addicts.
can of Coke, 34 milligrams of caffeine. So it's about a third amount of caffeine in a cup of coffee, and it's just added in. They don't need to have caffeine in cola. It's a reason why they can put non-caffeine Pepsi on the shelves, you know? So one thing I'm wondering is like what, you know, you guys in general, what your caffeine intake has looked like, I guess, compared to like, when you're going hard at school versus like when you're trying to work versus, if you're just
rare.
relaxing on the weekend. So you're completely rare at all. Like,
Yeah, very rare. Like it'll be on the weekends. I don't drink caffeine at school like at all. I just get water when I'm on. Yeah.
Interesting. Whereas Chandler, you're probably going to put me in the correct, 100% opposite end of the
Well, I
spectrum
am
here.
the type of person where I mentioned the other day.
9 cups of coffee a day.
Let's go, baby.
I mentioned to Haley, my girlfriend, the other day. It's like, I think I'm drinking too much coffee. I might try to cut down. She's like, cool. Can you do this the week I'm not here?
Yeah, Chandler is
I
probably
picked the
gonna go
wrong week to quit huffing glue.
Yeah, that is interesting. Chandler, keep us posted on how your caffeine withdrawal goes
Yeah.
because it's gonna happen.
I don't. First of all, I don't think I'm gonna quit coffee. I will say
I think you're still probably gonna
I
experience.
need to cut. No, I need to cut down. Like,
but I think you're still gonna experience the effects of caffeine withdrawal.
Yesterday-
even if you're cutting it down slightly, right? Because your body is used to such a high amount of caffeine.
Oh, that's
How
an
many
interesting
cups
point.
of coffee a day do you generally consume?
That's a great question.
Before you wanted to start, before you wanted to stop.
That's the
drinking
problem
coffee.
is that I'm really inconsistent.
You don't know?
So
So in general.
So some days,
If you were to just pinpoint roughly an
like
average.
today,
Yeah?
Today I did. Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory. Today I decided, you know what? I'm probably not going to do anything work related. So
Okay.
I had a large latte from Dunkin', and that's all the caffeine I've had today.
Okay.
That's it. That is the equivalent of about 2 to 2.5 cups of coffee.
So a large latte, I'm not sure how Dunkin' does their stuff, but latte being
that's
primarily a milk
3 shots
beverage.
of espresso.
It's a milk beverage with espresso in it. Okay, so you have about 3 shots of espresso. Now, espresso is basically the same serving as a cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, so we'll say roughly 300 milligrams.
We're going to guess about 300 milligrams. Now, again,
that's a lot of caffeine.
An energy drink is about 180 milligrams, depending on your energy drink. So we're assuming that's about like, you know, if you put it in terms of like a rock star, it's like 1.5, or a Red Bull or whatever.
So on an average day where I go to school, I will usually drink 3. Like 3 is my average.
300 milligrams?
300 milligrams is my average.
Okay.
However, there are days where I'm either like, I feel really tired, I didn't sleep all last night, and I'll crank that to 500 to 600.
Jesus Christ.
That's crazy to me. But now, okay, here's another thing in that
Like
lots
the
of
other day, that's what
how
happened.
many did you say was 1 cup of coffee?
1 cup of coffee is about
100.
100. That's easy enough to guess. 100.
All right, so you're not quite on the level of my grandma. I think my grandma
Yeah.
is at like 9 cups a day.
Oh my god, dude, that's crazy to me. If that's what it takes to get you out of bed, like
I don't know
that's
what
not
it
like
is,
out
but,
of
like,
bed.
my-
That's throughout the day. I don't
you
know.
get a tolerance, right?
I could be way off on that though. I think
know.
that's like an estimate or something.
I'm
But
definitely.
I don't really know super well.
When I'm
I know it's a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
Even Haley says I'm an angry bitch when I don't know. Like
That's probably true.
I am an angry person when I don't
Withdrawal,
get
be like,
and like I'm not like some people who when they get withdrawals they get headaches. And
I've never had any symptoms from withdrawal.
I don't get caffeine withdrawal symptoms. I just get really cranky for no reason.
I haven't even
that
noticed that.
sounds like a withdrawal.
It is, but I don't have
symptom.
any other symptoms. So like I'll be sitting there and I would have not had any coffee today, and I'm thinking like I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And then someone will do something minor and just piss me the fuck off.
That's all it takes. Just one thing.
So honestly, like I could probably go cold turkey, no coffee, and I wouldn't have very many headaches, and I wouldn't have very many like days where I'm like, oh, I can't do anything. But I would just be an angry bitch for like a week.
You just have like you'd be a little irritable.
That is
What they
really
said
interesting,
on
yeah.
average, it does take like if you decide, okay, I'm gonna quit coffee, cold turkey. It takes about a week for all the caffeine to leave your system.
Really? Oh
The-
no,
the
actually, yeah,
biological
that tracks,
half-life
that
of
tracks.
caffeine is about 7 hours, but of course that means after 14 hours, then a quarter of it's left, and then after 28 hours, an eighth of it's left. So it's interesting to think that there's still caffeine in your system for
I mean,
whatever
it should
small
be
amount.
such a
that it is.
microscopic amount after 7 days.
Sure,
but there's also
but,
the
like, it's still
psychological
there.
impacts
and then
of
you
that,
think
which
about
would
the-
probably
Well,
extend
they're
on.
onset of
saying
withdrawal.
7 days for like to get over most of the psychological impact.
Yeah,
yeah,
there you
that's
go.
fair.
So yeah,
So
not really
100%.
physical,
So
but more
honest,
psychological.
if like I were to say, you know what, I don't have work for the next week, I don't have school for the next week, I'm gonna quit coffee. That would be an option. But here's the other thing. It's a routine for me to the point where I
that's
enjoy
where I'm
it.
at. Yeah,
I enjoy
I
it.
love the
I
taste
like-
of coffee.
Even honestly, I thought about, you know what if I just switch to decaf for a week and see what happens?
That's an interesting question that I've never gone.
I feel like you'd probably have to wean yourself off, like slowly.
Do half cap,
like,
baby.
Yeah, right. Like
Well, half cap is the
less
thing. I
and
could
less
just do
and
that
less
for like 1
caffeine
week.
each day.
1 week I'll just do all half cap, and the next week I'll just do decaf.
Yeah.
But I also like my coffee in the morning, and I know you're not
Right.
supposed to, but my coffee has a lot of calories. I'm gonna be real. I use creamer.
There's
Like my
nothing wrong with
coffee's
that.
my coffee's gonna have a lot of
My
calories.
coffee is half of my breakfast. It's,
It's
basically
almost,
150
it's
calories.
almost a meal replacement.
Yeah.
Like it's got a lot of calories once you add my creamer.
Sugar and caffeine, baby. That's how you get going in the morning.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That's,
I don't even have a breakfast
Oh man!
anymore.
Now if I have a test, I will load up with caffeine.
Yes. Dude, I'm telling you. So I don't know.
I
if you
should
remember
maybe
this.
have a thing of tea.
Do they still do this? Maybe you'll be able to tell me at the university. So back in the day when I was a student, you know, I can be
Like
old
2
man
years
now,
ago.
right? Back in my day, when finals week would come around, the Red Bull girls would come around.
Oh yep.
Yep,
Oh,
they still do. Okay.
Last year it was the Bang Girls.
Oh, Bang Energy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that like Florida energy.
I
Bring
feel
it up.
like I
in here.
recall being offered like.
No, you were with me. The
receiving
last
a
time they did
bang
it,
at one
pre-COVID,
point.
you were standing next to me when the girl walked up to me and was like, "Do you want to bang?" And I'm like,
Do you want to bang? Oh my
That's
God.
literally what they said.
"Yes." And,
yeah.
and of course I said yes, and they gave me the drink. 'Cause I knew
my
what they were
God. Okay,
doing.
that's so funny. I didn't even realize the genius marketing behind Bang Energy until
And
just
of course
now.
it's these you know, really attractive women
do
that
it.
are handing these drinks
They
out.
know. They know.
They know.
They know.
So-
They know is what they're saying. Yeah.
There's a reason I said the Red Bull girls, and it's because you would never see anybody else.
when I
So,
went
Didn't
to
they?
Kent,
Didn't they used to have like a Red Bull car?
Yeah,
that
they
would,
had
like,
a Red Bull
drive
car.
around
So there was
campus
this
and
like
shit?
little
I
like
don't
it
know.
wasn't like the smart car, but it was a little bigger.
It was a Volkswagen Bug.
yeah, it was like one of the I'm thinking like what's that Kia Soul, but it's the other brand. Did you just say it?
The I'm thinking of the Volkswagen Bug.
I don't
Or the
know.
Volkswagen
I don't
Bug.
remember.
It was like the really blocky looking like tiny van.
The
thing.
Cube.
The Nissan
Yeah,
Cube?
like the
No, I
Cube,
don't
like the
know.
Cube. I don't know what it was specifically, but it was just like that, and it had a massive like Red Bull thing on top of it, right? So branding on point. And they would drive around to all the locations of campus that were the highest volume, like traffic areas on campus.
Library.
Right. They would go to the library. They would go to the North Quad, which had all these different places. I mean, basically, they'd go to everywhere that was a high traffic area. And they would just start handing out Red Bulls. They'd be like, do you want a Red Bull? And me, being somebody who never drinks energy drinks, I was like, do I want a Red Bull? Like, what's the point? And they were like, well, it's free. In college, I'm like, oh, something free? Yeah, all right, give it to me. So they had, I think they were promoting at the time a tangerine flavored Red Bull. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and then they're just doing, this is like a marketing thing. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Right. I held on to that thing for 2 months and never drank it. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I got a Red Bull for. 180 milligrams of caffeine? I don't need this much caffeine for anything. I started my day with a cup of coffee, and that was good for the rest of the day.
And then you had like a final exam or something.
I had a final exam at 7:45 in the morning on a Friday morning. And I was just like, oh, let's see. All right, if I wake up at 7, I can drug the Red Bull. I'll eat like a granola bar, and that's going to be my breakfast, and that's going to get me going. Let me tell you, dude, that thing had me wired. I was wide awake. I was like, all right, let's do some calculus. Dude, I finished my exam. That's probably the only time I finished a calculus exam on time. I was like, all right, let's go. They sold me on Red Bull. I went to deliver pizzas 3 years after that, dude. I was always fueled by Monsters and Red Bulls. I drank way too many of those
It's just
things.
so
What
bad.
I'm hearing is the marketing worked.
The marketing worked. That was it. Now,
It works if you're susceptible to it.
Now, as somebody who's no longer in school, I finally graduated. I got my piece of paper. I'm like, I don't
that is
need
one expensive piece of paper.
I don't need this much caffeine in a day. That's ridiculous for me. At most, I think maybe on days that I'm like, I need to get things done, I'll have my coffee in the morning and then again at lunch. But one of the guys I work with, Brandon, was like, yeah, dude, if I drink caffeine afternoon, dude, I'm wired. I can't go to bed. And I'm starting to get to that like boomer mentality where I'm like, I don't want to drink caffeine afternoon because all it's going to do is keep me up at night. You know, like
I'm already there, dude.
Well, you're hypersensitive to it.
I probably am, though. That's true. I don't drink caffeine.
Right.
I don't know. Like, I can have a black tea, but I steep it for all of a minute and a half, a couple minutes. Then, I don't know. But I'd rather have other stuff. I don't know. I really like the lemon and ginger teas and that
well,
sort of
you like the herbal stuff. So you like everything about tea except for the caffeine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite part of caffeine,
tea,
right?
Great.
Mint,
give me the good
herbs.
flavor.
I love hibiscus. I love the rose. I love all that stuff, and none of it has caffeine.
Yeah.
It's fun when nerding out about tea.
So basically, I guess where I'm getting at
give me them good flavors.
As I've moved on in my life, as I've started to like grow into the just like grind set of working and realizing like I start my day with caffeine, and like as much as I start the day with this addiction, I don't really notice that much of a difference anymore. Like I feel like if I have another cup of coffee in a day, I'm like wired and I'll be able to get my work done. But if I go a day without caffeine, it doesn't even faze me anymore. Whereas I feel like
that's good though.
that is good. I guess
that is very good for you. Yeah.
At the same time, I don't know. I'm still kind of dependent on it in that I have it every day. So I'm not sure.
I don't think it's good to be dependent on it. But
yeah.
I could see turning to it every once in a while to get through the day. But it's definitely, I see it as a bad addiction. If it's like, I need my cup of coffee to wake up in the morning. I mean, what's the difference, right? I need my cup of alcohol to wake up in the morning, right? If anyone was saying that, you'd be like,
what the hell's the matter with you? Right, yeah.
But if you say, I need my cup of coffee to wake up in the morning,
you're just a human,
like
right?
Everybody
You're like
else.
all of us. Right.
Yeah, right, exactly. So it's socially acceptable versus socially unacceptable. But I think at the end, maybe both are sort of bad for you.
Yeah. I have one guy at work who's, and this is a guy that went to one of the party schools around here about 10 years ago.
Sure.
So I always assumed he's the one who got me into this. I don't know if you've ever heard of this app called Untapped. It's a beer.
I've never heard of it.
Basically, what's great about this app, Untapped, is that anytime I try a beer that I've never had before, I love drinking different beers and trying new things.
Yeah.
You can check it in on this app. And then
it'll tell you if you had it before?
You can rate it. Yeah.
Okay,
if you've rated it before,
it'll
tell you. It'll tell you where to buy it. It'll tell you what people think of it. And I love trying new things. I love a lot of the new crazy IPAs. I love going to a brewery and checking in every single beer I try. He sold me on this because he went to a local party school. So he basically, I can tell in his youth, some 10 or some years ago, definitely drank a lot and had his time as a party guy. But at this point in time, being somewhere in his like I would say early to mid 30s, he doesn't drink caffeine at all anymore. The most amount of caffeine he has is a cup of black tea at noon. So he's like one of those 50 milligrams a day. And I think that's kind of like if I ever start weaning myself off of caffeine, it's going to be like, all right, black tea instead of coffee, like, have the amount of caffeine intake I have.
I mean, I would occasionally have a cup of black tea before work, but it didn't really do a whole ton for me.
Interesting.
I can wake up just fine, right? Like, okay, 9 o'clock. I'm out of bed in 5-10 minutes. Okay. Like, I'm not one of the kind of people who's like, oh my God, here's my alarm. Let me sit in bed on my phone for a half hour or whatever. Like, I'll do it on the weekends because I want to. But like, if I have to get up, I'm out of bed and good to go. Right. Like, I don't need coffee. I don't need anything. I can just jump out of bed and be good.
I can't do that anymore. I'll be honest.
There's so many people who can't do it though.
I go to bed early. Don't get me wrong. I did get in a good good sleep schedule of going to bed early. I'm always in bed before midnight if it's a work day, unless something's terribly wrong.
Depends on the time I start work.
I'm in bed before
I generally
midnight.
Try for 8 or 9 hours of sleep.
If
I prefer 9.
Sure,
but yeah.
If I start my day before 9 a.m.
You got problems?
Or before 9 a.m. I'm on track. If it's after 9, I've slept in and it's a big problem. So
yeah, exactly. So that's sort of where I am now.
I'm kind of at that midnight to 8. I get 8 hours of sleep every night, and it's perfect for me. And I think that really helped me from college.
Roughly where I'm at.
I was used to doing homework at 3 a.m. and I hate that. I'm so glad I'm done with that. But like now that I've sort of gotten a regular sleep schedule, I feel like my dependency on caffeine is more of just casual than like a requirement.
I couldn't do homework past like 6 or 7 at night.
Oh man, I can't tell you how many late nights I had.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty.
Yeah. I'm so glad it's over. But yeah, it's just it was a different life.
Haley got me on a waking up at 7:30 schedule.
That is a really early schedule, admirable. But more power to you.
No, it's admirable.
Yeah. So what happened was that she has to be
fix your sleep schedule. So yeah.
Since she's doing her student teaching, she has to be at school at 8 a.m. every day.
Okay.
So what she does it, and the school is only 10 minutes away. Mm-hmm. So she wakes up at 7:30.
Oh.
And she's able to get ready in 20 minutes and be in the car on time, so she's at school at 8 a.m. on the dot every day.
That is impressive. Yeah. I could not do that.
Let's see. Back when I was in high school.
But she wakes me up and she brings me a cup of coffee every morning.
You got a good girl. Don't ever forget that.
Back when I was in high school, I don't recall exactly what time the bus arrived, but I feel like the bus arrived like 7 o'clock.
Yep, mine was always 7:12 on the dot.
I don't know exactly what time it was. I don't remember. It's been too long. Mm-hmm. But I know I was like, wake up 10 minutes before the bus shows up. Yep. Wake up, brush teeth.
Wake up and go to school.
Don't even grab anything. Throw backpack outside. Wait for the bus. Like, no, there wasn't a, lay in bed for a half hour. Wait for my mom to come wake me up. None of that. Just I'm out of bed.
What does help? Haley doesn't wear makeup. So that's not a problem.
That's a good.
Yeah, that would certainly help. Yeah. I don't wear makeup, so
me neither. No way.
Exactly. I can just roll out of bed. I don't really care how my hair looks. It's good enough.
She prepares the night before, so she doesn't have to do anything in the morning. So her lunch is already made in the fridge.
That's smart.
Her clothes super smart. Her clothes are already hanging outside the closet, ready to grab and put on. She's got everything ready. All she's got to do is get up, brush her teeth, put on deodorant in her clothes, grab her lunch, get out the door.
I mean, that is fair. I would make my lunch, so I had to wake up a little earlier. And she doesn't drink coffee,
so she doesn't need that.
I have to wake up a little earlier for work, but whatever, I'll make the lunch. Yeah. Or if I'm feeling exceptionally lazy, I could just buy lunch at work.
There you go. Whatever. Yeah, that's what I would do. I'll be like, if I get up right before I need to leave, I'm like, all right, I'm going somewhere to buy lunch today. Like it just
so
where I worked had a cafeteria where we could just purchase lunch from them for $2. It was very good.
Save that money.
So
it was good lunch too.
So when I worked at the company you and I worked together at,
ABC Corporation.
ABC Corporation.
Acme Corporation.
We had these coffee makers.
Yes, free coffee they had. We used to have to pay 35 cents.
Coffee.
So I think it was before your time.
Well. It was like right, and I think they put those machines in like right when I started.
It must have been right around your time. So it was slightly before his time. We used to have to pay 35 cents. So the K-cups were free, but to dispense hot water with this machine, it was an industrial Keurig.
Wait.
To dispense hot water with this machine, it cost 35 cents. You put a nickel in, you put a dime in, you put a quarter in, and it would dispense your hot water.
Wow.
So even if you brought your own K-cups, you still had to pay 35
Even if you brought your own coffee, you had to pay for the water, which was a little corny. It was a little corny,
really
but whatever.
Awful.
So one of the things was
So could you like steal the K-cups and go home and use them?
You could take the K-cups and go home. I know, and you could take the tea and go home.
So the cups were free, but the hot water.
You had to pay to dispense the beverage.
Did they have a microwave?
I guess they did have a microwave. I didn't even think about that.
So why the fuck would you not just
microwave the K-cup?
Just take the water, heat it up in the microwave, and then put the K-cup in it.
Because the coffee grounds.
Anyway.
No, fuck that, man. Just pour it in.
So if you really wanted to save 35 cents.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how coffee works. What do you expect me to know that shit?
Anyway, the point being, once the company started to transition into a new kind of era when a bigger company took over, they also had a big change in the office. And this was one that I loved. Mm-hmm. They brought in these coffee makers from Aramark, which is a global company.
We don't like Aramark. But
you may know them from your local prison.
Or your local university.
Or your local university. Big food supplier in the U.S. and probably other places across North America.
It's just the truth.
Right.
I can't use my damn Chick-fil-A gift cards at the Chick-fil-A because it's owned by Aramark, and I'm upset about it.
Wait, they don't accept the Chick-fil-A gift cards?
Nope.
No,
That's
they don't.
really
no, they don't.
bad.
Low quality but reliable food. They brought in, I will say the one nice thing, they brought in these massive coffee machines that had the beans right in the top. This machine was free to use. It revolutionized coffee and caffeine addictions at the workplace. You could,
I bet.
You could grind your coffee freshly right in front of this machine and get an espresso. You could get your like French press.
So it's like one of those Coke machines that you see.
It's like the freestyle machine, the Modbus, dude. The freestyle Modbus machine.
Yes, this thing could make. Wow. This thing could make lattes. It could do cappuccinos.
They had powdered milk. They had chocolate. They had hot chocolate. You could do. You could craft the most meticulous beverages with this machine for free,
automatically.
Oh my god!
But what
I was
if I'd
addicted to
rather make
caffeine when these things showed up.
When I first started at APS, I was averaging 6 cups a day.
Dude,
it
what the fuck is wrong with you?
Every single couple hours would be like, all right, it's time for a co-op coffee break. We'd go out and just get more coffee from the machine. But let me tell you,
this was me and Alex's like every hourly break. We would go out and get coffee from these machines.
Okay, it's our coffee time.
And then Carson too. Carson was another one where he would be like, all right, well, it's time for the co-ops to go get some coffee, and he would go and fill up his coffee every single hour on the dot. And I'm just like, dude, I can only do 2 cups a day. I can't do any more than this, or else I'm just like wired. Like I love.
Hey,
being
it's okay. I
work.
couldn't do 1 cup a day.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm
saying. I
saying.
don't like the taste of coffee either, though. So
okay,
you know,
I can't help you with that.
I can't do any cups of coffee a day. But
the fact that like 2 cups of coffee would be enough to be like, I'm wired. I'm ready to work.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Any more than that, dude, I could not stay productive. I would just be off the walls. I'd be bouncing off the walls, getting nothing done. Like I needed to stay limited. I got to stay in my lane, you know?
I will agree with that. I definitely have had recently the over-caffeinated issue.
So I'm glad to say that since I've graduated and gone into the full-time workplace, being the wonderful position to work from home.
At ABC Corporation.
At ABC
Corporation. Yes. That's where we all work, ABC
Corp. I am glad to say that 100 milligrams of caffeine is a good benchmark for the most amount of caffeine I need in a day to be able to get everything done in the morning. And I will say, it's still, to this day, after 10 plus years of casual caffeine abuse.
Casual caffeine? That's a new podcast.
Hey! I can get everything done in the morning that I need to get done because I got those early stand-up meetings. You know, I got to wake up and write in my, what I did in the week.
Wake up, watch as the project manager talks to you. Sorry, project.
All right, we're gonna talk about the projects.
Project
today.
owner, you got your Scrum Master.
Yeah,
I get
Scrum
it.
Master.
Yes, sir.
I gotta say, I appreciate the utility of caffeine, but at this point, as much as I use it nonstop,
I don't know.
I'm glad to say that when I stop using it, at least I'm at that point where I'm not like begging for more. I feel like I'm at a good level where I'm riding that high and I'm like, this is enough.
I would probably be passed out right now if I didn't have coffee this morning.
Does this apply to you?
I want to know. Tell us in the comments, how much caffeine do you need in a day to get your code done?
That's a really good one. Yes, I actually support that. How much caffeine do you need?
Because we got none.
None.
We got basically the road, standard 1 cup a day, maybe 2, and then
caffeine.
I need more right now.
Yes. I'm curious though, Alex. Because you get the Scrum Master stuff, right? Yeah. So does this apply to you? Okay, guys, this is going to be a 10, 15-minute scrum a half hour later. Okay, we're finally still going. So all right, we're about to end the meeting.
On that point, you've struck a chord.
I have? All right, let's go.
Really hit a nerve with me.
I've got a handful.
Yeah, right, we got to let him rant about this.
I'll close out with this. I'll close out with this. If you're somehow up in the upper hand of things, if you're in the project management end of things in the corporate world, just know this. If you have a meeting with engineers like I had, where I had to talk about the status on a new prototype project.
Okay.
And you're working with the lowest on the, on the pecking order here of like the level 1 and 2 engineers. I myself being one of the level 2, so basically lowest in my project group. Working on a project, and then you have the project managers who don't know anything about engineering, but they know how to crack the whip and tell people that we have deadlines, which is a very important part of the engineering process, but it doesn't require engineering experience. So if you're going to have one of those meetings, some might call them a stand-up meeting or or whatever.
Stand-up, daily scrum, call it what you like.
Scrum meeting.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. Note that there's usually a schedule or like a list of things you want to accomplish in the meeting. Try to follow that because I had a 30-minute meeting to go over the status of a project.
Oh, and then it becomes 2 hours pretty quick?
Yeah, so I had my progress to report, and me being kind of a grunt, I didn't have any other meetings to attend. So I didn't care if this ran a little bit overboard. It was a 1.5 hour meeting that started at 2, and I had one thing I wanted to say, and it was what I accomplished on the software end of things. We have all sorts of mechanical and compliance and electrical people that need to do their report outs and say, here's where we are in the project that's supposed to be delivered at X point and then shipped at this point, and then on the first article at this point, and then be a product that we sell at this point. They care about the deadlines. Now, I just wanted to say, hey, listen, here's the software, here's what I did, here's where we are on our roadmap, and we checked all our boxes this week. Just want to let you know we're doing well. I was going to say all those things, except I looked at the clock and 15 minutes had gone by and we hadn't finished our introductions. And then 30 minutes had gone by and the meeting time was already over and we weren't done talking about the project schedule. And then 45 minutes had gone, 15 minutes over the time that this meeting was supposed to be. That's 50% longer than the original booked time. And we were still talking about the project schedule. And then over an hour went by. Over an hour where people were leaving the meeting because they said, I have other meetings to attend. And I'm just sitting here with a stupid look on my face, microphone muted and camera off because I don't have anything to say. And then they say, all right, we're a little bit over time, so we're just going to finish up here. And I'm thinking, all right, well, let me shake my notes together and get ready to report what I did this week. And then they say, we're just going to finish the meeting here and start off from next week where we left off. And I thought, this was supposed to be a half hour, and we made it twice as long, and I still didn't get to say what I wanted to say. So if you're in the project management aspect of things, just know, maybe we don't always care about the high-level details of things and just stick to the schedule and we'll all be happy. So maybe just one way to tie this back to everything is when you're all hyped up on caffeine and you're going a mile a minute and you're thinking, I want to spend every single minute of my work life productive as possible, trying to accomplish important, crucial tasks for this company. Don't waste my time in a meeting if I'm not going to do or say anything at all. So I'll just leave you right there. I think we had a good discussion this week.
Alex is mad.
You can tell I have my personal feelings about how these project meetings go sometimes. Hey,
I've seen it happen once or twice.
It happens.
It's unfortunate, but as long as it's not like constantly.
Yeah, it's only happened twice out of like the handful of meetings we've had. So,
it happens.
We're learning. It's tough to keep things going sometimes when you have a million issues with a project and all of them are caused by
and
chip
sometimes things pop up and things come up, whatever.
But
it's sort of different in that case, so I don't know.
It's something you got to deal with.
Hey, I was the type of person to bring my laptop to the meeting, so you
Chandler was the one who would be like, well, let me just like do all my work in this meeting, and then since I've already done an hour of work in a meeting, I can also bill 1 hour of work in the meeting under separate time. So then I've completed 2 hours of work in 1 hour of time. Let's go home early, baby, and that's the way to do it. That's the pro gamer move. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's exactly what I would do, and then I would go home an hour early.
Because that's the correct thing to do. So I'll stand by that. I think that's a pro move. Hey, listen, if you're out there wondering what you're supposed to do in these pointless meetings where you don't talk, it's to do all the work you're supposed to do and then leave an hour early.
I respect it. Yeah, I don't know. That's certainly one way to deal with it.
I remember our like the top level, like above our boss, project manager's like, Chandler, you taking notes? I'm like,
Yep, just taking notes on the meeting, right?
Because this wasn't like
a
meeting.
At least you didn't get flamed. Hey, Chandler, you taking notes? Yeah, man. All right, cool. Send those after the meeting.
No, they never. No, mostly because this was a meeting with our corporate overlords, and they didn't care.
Yeah, they take their own notes.
All right, yeah, fair enough.
Because
they got the secretaries
the VP of the new owners were there.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, this has been a great discussion. I think we
ran a little over, but that's okay.
That's all right.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. I think we learned a lot. I'm glad we got to share this discussion with you. I want to hear in the comments. You share in the comments what your caffeine addiction is, what you think of the new AMD Ryzen series, and what your thoughts are on Golang, and if you're going to use those in your new projects. I know I am. I'm already hooked, so you don't have to sell me any further.
He's already addicted.
Yeah, I'm addicted to Go.
I was putting it to Chandler, but yeah, that's cool.
I'm addicted to Go too.
Uh-oh. Bunch of Go addicts in here.
I'll have to share with you my new project whenever I get around to working on it. Please don't hold me to it. All right. Well,
yeah, next year.
Talking with you. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's been a pleasure talking this time. Chandler, Ian, myself, Alex. I've had a great time talking to you today. We want you to have a fun time. We want you to stay safe out there, enjoy yourself, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Casual Coders, signing off.